The stars had never felt so cold. Captain Elias Rourke stared at the endless expanse of darkness beyond the viewport of the Aurora Dawn, the first human vessel to venture beyond the Sol cluster into the uncharted Nibiru expanse. A shiver ran through him, not from the chill of the vacuum beyond, but from the knowledge that out there, in the silent infinity, they were not alone. For centuries, humanity had spread across the inner planets, carving out colonies on Mars, Europa, and Titan, building cities that glittered like jewels against the black canvas of space. Yet the universe, it seemed, had a lesson waiting for them. A force unimaginable, alien in every sense, was converging upon them, and these invaders, known only as the Clythar, were not curious. They were predators. Elias turned to his crew, his family of warriors and scientists, each hand-picked for their courage and resilience. Among them was Lyra, the ship's chief engineer, whose brilliant mind had saved their fleet from destruction more times than anyone could count. Next to her, Draven, a stoic ex-soldier who carried scars like badges of honor, scanned the approaching void for threats. And young Amara, barely 19, whose voice could calm a panicked crew with a single word, adjusted the trajectory of their ship with hands steadier than most veterans. "Captain." Lyra's voice broke through the hum of engines, soft but firm. "The Clythar fleet has been detected. They're moving faster than predicted. We have less than 12 hours before they reach Titan." Elias's jaw tightened. Titan was humanity's crown jewel in the outer system, a beacon of hope and industry, and now it was a target. "Then we make our stand," he said, his voice calm, but every syllable carried the weight of countless lives. "Prepare the defenses. Alert every colony within range. Humanity does not bow." The Aurora Dawn cut through the stars like a silver arrow, leaving a trail of determination in its wake. The crew worked in synchrony, a symphony of human ingenuity and resolve. Shields hummed to life, weapons charged. Communication relays linked every human outpost in a lattice of defiance. Every heart aboard the ship beat with a shared rhythm. Fear, yes, but tempered with unyielding courage. Outside, the Clythar arrived like a black tide, a fleet of monstrous vessels that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. Their ships were organic, writhing, and imperious, each one a fortress of bone and energy. Their intent was clear. They would consume, conquer, obliterate. Elias's hands tightened on the command rail. "Signal the colonies. Tell them to hold, and to fight like humanity has never fought before." As the first skirmishes began near Titan's orbit, the human fleet revealed something the Clythar could not anticipate. Unity born of vulnerability, courage born of desperation, and a fire no alien intelligence could extinguish. Lyra's energy cannons tore through the enemy lines with precision. Draven led boarding parties that turned every ship they captured into a weapon against its own kin. And Amara's quick calculations predicted enemy maneuvers before they happened, making every human attack devastatingly efficient. And yet the cost was evident. Each victory was paid for in blood and tears. Spaceships exploded like falling stars, sending waves of debris into the void. Each life lost was mourned, and yet each loss steeled the survivors further. Elias saw it in their eyes, the same reflection of relentless hope, the same refusal to break under pressure. By the time Titan's surface became visible through the chaos of battle, humanity's defiance had become legend in the making. It was no longer merely survival. It was a statement. The universe may be infinite, but humanity's spirit was indomitable. Elias whispered almost to himself, "They will know us. They will never forget the fire that burns in the hearts of men and women who refuse to kneel." The first night of battle ended not in surrender, but in a stalwart victory. The Clythar had underestimated the simplest, most terrifying force in the galaxy. Humanity united, unbroken, unafraid. And while the war had only begun, a legend was already being forged in the fires of Titan's orbit, one that would echo across the stars for generations to come. For Elias and his crew, and for all humankind, the message was clear. The universe may test them, may threaten to crush them under its cold weight, but humanity would rise every time stronger than before. The fight had begun, and there was no turning back. The smoke of battle still lingered in the void, glittering like dying stars around Titan's orbit. Human ships, battered but alive, drifted among the wreckage, their lights flickering defiantly against the darkness. Captain Elias Rourke stood on the command deck of the Aurora Dawn, his eyes scanning the aftermath of the first clash. For a fleeting moment he allowed himself a sigh, a rare breath of relief, but it was short-lived. The Clythar were not defeated. They had retreated, but only to regroup. Their alien logic, cold and unfeeling, would not allow them to give up. And humanity had revealed its greatest strength and its greatest vulnerability in that fight. Courage, yes, but also hope. Hope could be a dangerous beacon to predators. Lyra Voss approached, her hands smeared with the grime of maintenance, her face pale but resolute. "Captain," she said, her voice carrying both urgency and fatigue. "Our systems are holding, but the Clythar will return stronger. Their retreat is only temporary. They'll target the civilian colonies next. We have to evacuate them or fight them head-on." Draven Kale's deep voice cut through the tension. "We fight. Every inch we give, they take. Humanity doesn't flee." Elias nodded slowly, his mind racing. "We will do both. Protect the civilians. Prepare the defenses. But we will meet them in the void. Humanity will not bow to fear." Amara Cien, the youngest on the crew but wise beyond her years, glanced at the tactical display, her hands moving across the controls like a conductor guiding a symphony. "Captain, the Clythar are evolving. Every tactic we used against them, they learn. We're adapting faster than they expect, but soon they'll anticipate our every move." The weight of her words pressed on the room like gravity. Elias's jaw tightened. Humanity's greatest strength, its ingenuity, was also its burden. Every strategy, every invention had to be sharper, faster, more daring. One lapse could mean extinction. The next morning, Titan's surface was a scene of both beauty and urgency. Cities glimmered beneath protective domes, while evacuation convoys streamed toward orbital stations. Elias walked among the colonists, feeling the pulse of their determination. Children clutched their parents' hands. Old men and women stood shoulder to shoulder with soldiers, and all of them, human, fragile, yet indomitable, prepared to face the storm together. One child, no older than 10, tugged on his sleeve. "Sir, will we win?" Elias knelt, meeting the boy's wide, terrified eyes. "We always fight," he said gently. "And when we fight as one, no force in the universe can break us." The boy nodded solemnly, clutching a small, battered toy ship, a tiny reminder of dreams that could never die. Elias felt a familiar ache in his chest. That ache, he realized, was hope, sharp, unrelenting, and beautiful. The Clythar returned 2 days later. Their ships emerged from the void like shadows given form, enormous, terrifying, alien. Yet the human fleet met them head-on. In the chaos of battle, the Aurora Dawn darted between enemy vessels like a phantom, weaving precision strikes against targets the Clythar never expected. Lyra's energy cannon screamed through the darkness, melting hulls and scattering alien crews. Draven's boarding parties turned every captured Clythar ship into a weapon against its own fleet, human ingenuity becoming a virus within the enemy ranks. Amara's calculations proved invaluable. She predicted alien movements with uncanny accuracy, guiding human fleets to trap entire squadrons in gravitational ambushes around Titan. Every maneuver carried risk. Every choice weighed heavily on the crew's hearts. Lives were lost, friends, colleagues, innocents, but humanity's spirit remained unbroken. In the midst of battle, Elias stood on the bridge, watching the struggle unfold. His mind was a storm of strategy, fear, and determination. And yet amidst the terror he found a clarity he had never felt before. Humanity's strength was not in its weapons or its numbers. It was in the fire of their hearts, in their refusal to surrender, in their unwavering belief that even the most desperate situation could be met with courage and brilliance. Hours passed. Explosions painted the void with light and heat, but slowly, methodically, the Clythar began to falter. They had underestimated the human capacity to endure, adapt, and unite. One by one, their ships were disabled, captured, or forced to retreat. By the time the dust settled, Titan remained untouched, not because humanity had the might to obliterate its enemy entirely, but because they had something far rarer, resilience that could not be quantified, a unity that could not be broken and hearts that refused to bow. Elias breathed deeply, feeling the exhaustion settle into his bones. He looked at his crew, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of control panels, and knew, deep in his soul, that the battle had only just begun. The war ahead would test them in ways they could not yet imagine. But he also knew something more. As long as humanity remained unbroken, there was no force in the galaxy capable of extinguishing its fire. And in that moment, as the stars above Titan twinkled like distant promises, legends were quietly born. Not in triumph alone, but in the courage to face impossible odds, in the strength to protect and endure, and in the unyielding conviction that humanity, even when outnumbered and outgunned, would rise again and again against the darkness. The void had grown darker, not in the absence of light, but in the presence of something more ominous. The Clithar, wounded yet unbroken, returned with a fury that crackled through space like a storm threatening to consume everything. Their fleets had multiplied, their ships larger, faster, more terrifying. Each vessel seemed alive, a nightmarish organism capable of anticipation and relentless pursuit. Elias Rourke stood on the command deck of the Aurora Dawn, his eyes scanning the displays with a measured intensity. His crew, exhausted but unwavering, moved like parts of a single organism, each aware, each indispensable. Even after countless battles, human hearts refused to yield. Lyra Voss's voice cut sharply through the hum of the bridge. "Captain, the Clithar have deployed what we can only describe as living warships. They adapt. They reorganize mid-battle. It's like fighting a storm with teeth." Draven Kale, leaning over the tactical board, grunted. "Then we hit them harder. We hit them smarter. And we do not falter." His voice was calm, but it carried the steel of someone who had seen death and refused to be bowed by it. Amara, fingers dancing across the controls, spoke quietly yet with undeniable authority. "I've calculated their patterns. They'll attempt to cut off Titan and isolate our colonies. If we fall for it, billions are at risk." She paused, eyes fixed on the shifting points of alien light. "We can't afford a single misstep." Elias nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility like gravity in his chest. "Then we make the missteps irrelevant. Humanity survives by daring when fear screams otherwise. Prepare every fleet, every ship, every fighter. We fight not just to win, but to live, and to show them that we do not break." The Clithar attacked at dawn, their massive ships descending from the void like shadows with teeth. The human fleet responded immediately, a wall of fire and light. Energy cannons blazed, missiles streaked through space, and the Aurora Dawn led a daring maneuver that drew the enemy into a gravitational trap near Titan's rings. Lyra's voice, strained but precise, guided each strike. "Target the largest vessels first. Focus fire on their command nodes. Don't give them a chance to adapt." Draven's boarding teams boarded one massive Clithar ship after another. Inside, the aliens were a tangle of sinew and metal, horrifying yet fragile when confronted by human resolve. Draven's teams moved like shadows, precise and unyielding, turning each captured vessel into a weapon against its own fleet. Amara's calculations became almost prophetic. She anticipated enemy moves, guiding human pilots into positions where they could strike with devastating effect. For every alien adaptation, humanity had an answer, forged not from technology alone but from unity and creativity that defied logic. Yet the battle was not without cost. Explosions shook the Aurora Dawn, sending tremors through its decks. Lives were lost, some quietly, some violently. Each casualty carved grief into the hearts of those who survived. Yet every loss seemed to fuel the resolve of the remaining crew. Elias walked among his soldiers on the bridge, looking into their tired, determined faces. "Every life lost strengthens the fire in those who remain," he said softly, almost to himself. "We honor them by fighting, by enduring, by proving that humanity cannot be crushed." Hours turned into days. The Clithar pressed relentlessly, but humanity met every assault with courage that bordered on defiance. Civilian evacuations continued under fire, orchestrated with precision and bravery. Children clutched their parents' hands. Workers turned engineers became soldiers, and every human being who could act did so, contributing to a tapestry of resilience that the Clithar could not comprehend. Amara, exhausted, looked up from the tactical display. Captain, they're retreating again, but this time, it feels different. They're not just regrouping, they're learning from us faster than ever. They may return stronger, and next time, the cost will be unimaginable. Elias took a deep breath, feeling the weight of truth. Humanity had survived, but survival had shown its price. Then we will rise again, he said firmly. Each battle shapes us, but it does not break us. We are human. We endure, we adapt, and we fight. As the alien fleet withdrew into the blackness of space, the survivors of humanity looked upon the aftermath. Wreckage, fire, grief, and yet above all, hope. Titan remained. The colonies remained. Humanity had not merely survived. It had triumphed against impossible odds, demonstrating a courage that could never be measured in weapons or numbers. Elias gazed at the stars, knowing the war was far from over. This is only the beginning, he whispered. But every legend begins with fire, and we are unbroken. In that silence, in the brief moment of calm before the storm that would return, humanity's spirit shone brighter than the dying embers of the Clythar assault. Every act of bravery, every sacrifice, every heart that refused to yield was a spark that would ignite a legend across the cosmos. And in the dark between stars, the universe had begun to take notice. Titan skies burned with fire and light. From orbit, the human fleet surged like a living organism, every ship a pulse in a network of courage and ingenuity. Captain Elias Rourke watched from the command deck of the Aurora Dawn, the weight of command pressing on his shoulders as if the stars themselves were demanding his vigilance. Lyra Voss moved beside him, her hands steady despite the tremors that ran through the ship from distant explosions. Captain, they've sent a massive assault formation. Thousands of Clythar vessels, she said, her voice low, edged with tension but unwavering in resolve. They're desperate. This isn't a normal strike. They're trying to overwhelm us. Draven Kale's eyes narrowed. Desperation makes them reckless. We'll exploit it. Humanity survives by turning odds against us into opportunities. That's who we are. Amara Cian, perched at the tactical console, added, if we can draw them into Titan's asteroid belt, we can force them into choke points. I can coordinate our fleets, but it'll be dangerous. Any miscalculation, and we lose everything. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, steadying her trembling fingers. Then we do what humans do best. We risk, we endure, and we fight together. The first wave of Clythar warships descended like a black tide, each vessel an alien nightmare of sinew and energy. Their massive forms twisted and pulsed, organic and terrifying. Yet the humans met them without hesitation. Energy beams tore through the void, scattering debris and alien hulls alike. Human ingenuity turned every captured ship into a weapon, a phantom fleet striking from unexpected angles. In the heart of the battle, Draven led a boarding team onto one of the Clythar's largest vessels, a monstrous ship called the Bone Serpent by survivors. Inside, the aliens moved with uncanny precision, their very biology designed for war. Yet humanity's soldiers moved with determination that bordered on sacred fire. Draven's team disabled control nodes, rerouted energy to human ships, and turned the alien vessel against its own fleet. Lyra orchestrated the fleet's attacks from orbit, each shot a symphony of precision. "Target the rear formations," she called, her voice calm yet commanding. "Cut their lines. Force them into the belt. Do not let them adapt." Amara's calculations were prophetic. She guided human squadrons with a speed and accuracy that no alien could match. Every maneuver, every strike displayed not just skill but the unyielding spirit of humans who refused to bow to fear. The battle raged for hours. Stars themselves seemed to weep as ships burned and exploded. Yet in every human heart burned an unquenchable flame. Civilians in Titan's colonies watched the battle from their protective domes, their fear tempered by awe. They were witnessing not just survival but the forging of legend. Amid the chaos, Elias received a message from a distant outpost. A civilian evacuation convoy had come under Clythar attack. Without hesitation, he gave orders for a rescue. "We do not abandon our own," he said simply. "Every life is precious. Every soul counts." A small fleet, guided by Amara's calculations and Lyra's engineering genius, tore through enemy lines to reach the convoy. Against impossible odds, human determination and bravery turned near-certain death into a stunning triumph. The rescued ships limped toward Titan, battered but alive, and every survivor carried the mark of humanity's courage. Yet the Clythar were relentless. Their desperation grew, manifesting in terrifying new strategies. Ships splitting into swarms, kamikaze attacks, and coordinated strikes designed to crush human defenses. The Aurora Dawn shuddered under repeated attacks, and every deck trembled with the weight of survival. Elias walked through the ship, seeing the exhaustion in every face, the scars, the quiet fear, and the unwavering determination that burned brighter than any weapon. He realized in that moment that the essence of humanity was not in technology, numbers, or strategy. It was in the unbroken spirit that refused to yield, even when surrounded by impossible odds. By the time the Clythar began a strategic withdrawal, the human fleet had turned the battle into a legend. Thousands of alien vessels lay crippled, swarming with chaos, their command structures fractured by human ingenuity and courage. Titan remained untouched. Humanity had once again turned desperation into victory, sacrifice into legend. Elias returned to the bridge, exhausted yet resolute. Lyra, Draven, and Amara stood with him, their eyes reflecting both sorrow for the lost and pride in what had been achieved. "They'll return," Draven said quietly, his voice steady. "They always do. But so will we. Every time. Because that's who we are. Humanity survives." Elias looked to the stars, the dark expanse now dotted with the fires of battle, and spoke softly, almost to himself. "Every spark we strike, every life we protect, every victory we win, it is the fire that will forge legends. The Clythar will know, and the universe will know, that humanity cannot be broken." And in that moment, as Titan's skies shimmered with the light of unyielding courage, humanity's legacy began to etch itself into the cosmos. Legends were no longer whispers. They were roaring, burning truths. The aftermath of the battle left Titan's orbit littered with wreckage, twisted metal, and the lingering echoes of 1,000 screams. Yet amid the ruins, humanity stood unbroken. Captain Elias Rourke surveyed the scene from the command deck of the Aurora Dawn, his eyes tracing the scars of war etched into the void. Every vessel destroyed, every life lost was a reminder of the price they paid for survival, and a testament to the fire that burned in human hearts. Lyra Voss moved beside him, her hands smeared with soot and sweat, her face drawn yet radiant with determination. "Captain," she said, her voice quiet but firm, "the Clythar, they're learning faster than we expected. Every tactic we've used, they've adapted. If they return, the next attack could overwhelm us." Elias nodded, absorbing the weight of her words. "Then we evolve faster than they do. Humanity survives not because we are invincible, but because we refuse to be predictable. We are the storm they cannot control." Draven Kale's gaze remained steady on the displays. "Our soldiers are tired. Every victory is paid in blood. Morale will falter if we don't inspire them with hope. And hope? Hope can win battles even when weapons fail." Amara, hunched over the tactical console, spoke with quiet intensity. "I've run simulations. If we exploit gravitational anomalies in the outer asteroid fields, we can create traps. We can force the Clythar into situations where their own size and aggression become weaknesses." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, feeling the trembling beneath her determination. "Then we do it. And we do it together." The human fleet mobilized once more. This time the stakes were higher. The Clythar approached with a ferocity that made the void itself tremble. They had learned, adapted, and evolved. Yet humanity's response was not merely reaction, it was creation. Ships moved in intricate patterns, energy beams fired with preternatural precision, and boarding teams struck with the efficiency of a living machine. Draven led a team onto a colossal Clythar vessel, dubbed the Spine of Night by terrified survivors. Inside, alien creatures twisted and pulsed, sensing the humans as predators themselves. The team moved with silent coordination, exploiting weaknesses in the ship's living systems. Explosions shook the alien vessel from within, and soon, the Spine of Night became a human weapon, tearing through enemy lines like a phantom of vengeance. Meanwhile, Lyra orchestrated the fleet from orbit. Each maneuver was calculated to maximize impact, minimize loss, and turn desperation into opportunity. "Target the command nodes on their larger vessels," she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. "We dismantle their coordination first, then we dismantle their will." Amara's calculations proved nothing short of extraordinary. She anticipated every Claythar adaptation, guiding human pilots through deadly gauntlets of alien fire with almost prophetic accuracy. Each maneuver was a dance of courage and intellect, a testament to humanity's ability to adapt and persevere against overwhelming odds. Yet the battle took its toll. Human lives were lost, some quietly, some violently, in the burning void. Elias walked among the crew, seeing exhaustion, grief, and determination etched into their faces. He realized then that the essence of humanity was not in their victories, but in their willingness to endure, to fight, and to rise again even after suffering unimaginable loss. A young pilot, barely 17, returned to the bridge trembling. "Captain, I lost my squadron. They didn't make it." Elias placed a firm hand on the boy's shoulder. "Then you carry their courage with you. Every action, every sacrifice becomes part of the fire that will forge legends. You are not alone. None of us are. That is why humanity cannot be broken." As the Claythar began to falter, disoriented by human tactics, the tide of the battle shifted. Alien ships, once fearsome and coordinated, now moved chaotically, driven by desperation rather than strategy. Human ingenuity, courage, and unity turned the enemy's strengths into weaknesses. By the time the battle ended, the Claythar retreated once more, leaving the void scarred and twisted, yet humanity still standing. Titan's orbit remained under human control, its colonies intact, its people alive and inspired. Elias gazed at the stars, the dark expanse now streaked with the fires of survival and victory. "This war is far from over," he whispered. "But every life we save, every act of courage we perform, every battle we endure, it is the fire that will forge legends. And humanity will never break." In that quiet moment, as the fleet limped toward repair and recovery, the crew of the Aurora Dawn understood something profound. The war was not just a fight for survival. It was a test of spirit, intellect, and heart. And humanity, unyielding and unbroken, had already begun to etch its legend into the stars. The darkness of space had never felt heavier. The Claythar had returned, more numerous, more desperate, and more terrifying than ever before. Their fleet surged toward Titan like a tide that would drown everything in its path. For the first time, the humans knew that the coming battle might demand the ultimate price. Captain Elias Rourke stood on the command deck of the Aurora Dawn, his eyes scanning the void as the alien ships approached. Every member of his crew moved with purpose, their exhaustion buried beneath an unyielding determination. Titan's colonies had been evacuated, its defenses fortified, yet the sheer scale of the Claythar assault made the odds nearly incomprehensible. Lyra Voss, her face pale and eyes bright with focus, turned to him. "Captain, they've coordinated their largest fleet yet. Tens of thousands of vessels. They've brought every tactic they know. If we fail, then we don't fail," Elias interrupted firmly. "Humanity does not fail, we endure. We adapt, we rise, and today the fire in our hearts will forge a legend the universe will never forget." Draven Kale's hands rested on the console, steady and unflinching. "Then we make every second count. Every human life, every vessel, every calculation, it matters. If they think desperation will break us, they are gravely mistaken." Amarasian's voice was calm, almost eerily precise. "Captain, I've mapped their formation and predicted every likely maneuver. If we exploit the gravitational anomalies in the asteroid belt here and here, we can trap them. They'll have no choice but to engage on our terms." Elias nodded. "Do it, and tell every human aboard every ship. Their courage today will echo across the stars." The first wave of the Claythar attack struck like living meteors. Titans of sinew and metal tore through the void, energy discharges lighting the darkness with horrifying beauty. Yet humanity met them not with fear but with defiance. Every human ship moved as one, a coordinated dance of courage and ingenuity. Draven led boarding parties onto the largest alien vessels. These ships were terrifying fortresses, Yet his teams moved with uncanny precision. Every control node disabled. Every alien system turned against its own fleet became another spark of human brilliance. The Clithar, for all their intelligence and adaptation, could not comprehend the fire in human hearts. Lyra's orchestration from the Aurora Dawn was a masterstroke. Energy beams seared through the void, cutting down entire waves of enemy ships, while human fighters darted through the chaos, striking with deadly accuracy. Every maneuver, every strike was guided by Amara's calculations, the youngest human mind shaping the battlefield like a maestro. And yet, the battle demanded more than strategy. It demanded sacrifice. Pilots gave their lives to save convoys. Engineers remained in failing ships, ensuring their weapons fired until the last moment. Soldiers fought to the edge of exhaustion, holding alien vessels at bay long enough for humanity to gain the advantage. Each act of bravery etched itself into legend, a testament to the unbroken spirit of mankind. Hours turned into an endless night of fire and steel. The Clithar, unable to adapt fast enough to humanity's creativity and courage, began to falter. Ships that once seemed invincible now twisted in chaos, turning against their own fleet. Humanity's unity, ingenuity, and courage transformed the battlefield into a crucible where legends were born. Elias moved through the command deck, his gaze meeting the eyes of his crew. Lyra, Draven, Amara, and every human aboard. "Look at what you've done," he said softly, voice carrying the weight of both grief and pride. "Every life, every sacrifice, it has brought us here. And though the battle is not yet over, the universe will know that humanity cannot be broken." Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the Clithar began their retreat. Their forces shattered, their command structures fractured, and their will tested beyond endurance, they fled into the void. Human ships, battered but victorious, held their ground. Titan's orbit was safe for now, but the echoes of bravery would resonate far beyond that moment. Amara, exhausted yet unbowed, whispered, "We did it." For now. Elias placed a hand on her shoulder, gazing into the expanse. "Yes, but this victory, this is more than survival. It is proof. Proof that the human spirit is indomitable, that when we rise together, when we fight with courage and ingenuity, no force in the universe can break us. We are legends already." And in that moment, as Titan's skies shimmered with the fires of survival, humanity's courage became mythic. Every sacrifice, every act of defiance, every heartbeat of hope had forged a story the stars themselves would remember. Legends were no longer stories whispered in fear. They were etched across the cosmos, blazing as bright as the fires of battle itself. Humanity had survived. Humanity had triumphed, and humanity's spirit was eternal. The void trembled with anticipation. Every star, every shadow, every glimmer of light seemed to hold its breath as the Clithar unleashed their final assault. This was no longer merely a battle. It was an attempt to annihilate humanity entirely, to erase the fire that refused to be extinguished. Captain Elias Rourke stood at the command helm of the Aurora Dawn, shoulders squared, eyes sharp. Beside him, Lyra Voss monitored energy outputs, her fingers flying across controls, her mind a whirl of calculations and courage. Draven Kale sharpened his focus, the weight of countless lost comrades etched into the determination in his eyes. And Amara CN, youngest and brightest among them, orchestrated maneuvers across the fleet with precision and intuition that seemed almost prophetic. "They're coming faster than we've ever seen," Lyra warned, her voice tense but unwavering. "Every formation we've predicted, they're breaking it. They're throwing everything at us." Elias's jaw tightened. "Then we give them something they cannot predict. Humanity does not surrender. Humanity does not bow. And today, we make legends." The Clithar attack hit like a meteor shower, their ships pulsating with alien energy, tearing through space with lethal intent. But humanity met them with the same fire that had carried them through every previous battle. Shields flared, cannons screamed, and human fighters darted through the chaos, striking where the Clithar were weakest. Draven led boarding teams onto the largest alien vessels. These ships were living fortresses, terrifying in their design, yet humanity's courage and ingenuity overcame them. Explosions erupted inside alien command centers. and every captured vessel turned into a weapon against its own fleet. The Clither had never seen such defiance. Lyra orchestrated energy volleys across the fleet, every strike calculated to maximum effect. "Focus on the core vessels," she commanded. "We dismantle their command structure. Without leadership, they fall apart." Amara guided the fleet through gravitational anomalies using asteroids as shields and traps. Every prediction she made was a brushstroke in a masterpiece of strategy, turning desperation into dominance. Her voice carried calm authority, each word shaping the chaos into a symphony of human ingenuity. And yet, the cost was undeniable. Ships were destroyed, brave souls lost in flashes of fire and debris. Every corner of Titan's orbit bore the weight of sacrifice. Humans grieved, but every act of courage, every life given for the cause, fueled the fire of those who remained. Elias moved among his crew, his voice steady, carrying the unshakable truth that had carried humanity through countless battles. "Look at what you've done. Every life lost, every victory earned, every moment of courage. It is proof that humanity cannot be broken. The universe may test us, may try to crush us, but it cannot extinguish the fire in our hearts." As the battle reached its zenith, a massive Clithar vessel, larger than any before, surged toward Titan. It was the embodiment of their desperation, their final attempt to crush humanity. Elias and his crew knew that if this ship struck, it could end everything. "Target the central node," Lyra commanded, hands flying across her controls. "All firepower. Every ship we have. We make them pay for every life they threaten." The human fleet unleashed everything they had. Cannons fired in synchrony. Missiles streaked across the void, and energy beams carved paths of destruction through the alien monstrosity. Draven's boarding team struck from inside, sabotaging its systems with calculated precision. Amara's predictions guided every move, every angle, every strike. For a moment, the universe itself seemed suspended. Then, with a flash that lit the void, the Clithar flagship exploded. The shockwave sent alien vessels scattering, fractured, broken. Humanity's fleet, battered yet unbowed, pressed forward, turning the final remnants of the Clithar assault into a desperate retreat. Silence followed the storm. Titan's orbit was scarred, but the colonies remained untouched. Humanity had survived. Humanity had triumphed, and in the hearts of those who fought, a legend was born. Elias stood on the bridge of the Aurora Dawn, gazing at the stars. Lyra, Draven, and Amara stood with him, exhausted but alive. The weight of survival pressed on their shoulders, but so did the radiant glow of victory. "They'll tell this story across the stars," Draven said quietly, "of humans who refused to bow, of courage that turned despair into triumph, of lives given to forge a legend." Elias nodded. "And they will remember. Humanity is not merely survivors. We are creators of hope, masters of ingenuity, unbroken in spirit. Today we have shown the universe what it means to be human." Amara's eyes glimmered. "The fire we carry, it will never die, not even if the Clithar return." Elias smiled, a quiet, unshakable smile. "No, they will never break us. Legends are forged in fire, and humanity is burned brighter than the stars themselves." And in that moment, as the void shimmered with the remnants of battle, humanity's legacy was etched across the cosmos. Tales of courage, sacrifice, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit spread from colony to colony, star to star. The Clithar had been defeated. But more than that, they had witnessed a force they could not comprehend. Unbroken humanity, relentless, brilliant, and eternal. Across the universe, a truth was clear: humanity cannot be broken. Humanity endures, and humanity will forever rise. Legends forged in the fire of courage.